This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, and welcome to another stunning morning out here in the African wilderness. We need to think of a new phrase for African wilderness, but it's just so perfectly descriptive. My name is Jamie. This morning, Dave is on camera with me once again, and this is live from the Sabi Sand in South Africa on Djuma Private Game Reserve, to be precise. We apologize for being late. We apparently were attacked by gremlins last night. I wanted to show you more of the beautiful view, but I'm not going to because there's a hyena whooping over there. Let's go find it. And then, sorry Dave, I know it's beautiful, but let's go find an animal first. Remember, because this is live, you can send through your questions on hashtag SafariLive on Twitter, alternatively in the comments section of YouTube. We do love to hear from you, and in fact it gives us inspiration as to what we shall talk about this morning. Now, what we shall talk about this morning as we begin is the fact that this morning, while having our tea, we heard the sound of Tingana and his lady friend making more little leopards somewhere in the Mulwati drainage line, so a dried up river system that runs straight through the middle of this property, and now we can't find them. So we have not been idle while we have been waiting for the internet to come back up. We've been out searching and they've gone quiet. Dead quiet. So I'm trying to help Brent. He's where we last heard the sound, which is back up to the north of me. And I have come to the south to see what we can see and to find out whether or not Tundi is upset about the intrusion in her territory. I'm going to sit and listen, which is exactly what Brent is doing somewhere to the north of me.
Well, we've been sitting and listening for quite some time. Good morning, my name is Brent Smith. I have Craig, aka the Batman, on camera. And they were very vocal before sunrise, and then as we got out, they've been quiet, but we know they're somewhere in this area. And I'm hoping Tristan, who's on foot with Rexon, will be able to help us by just listening. We also heard some lions roaring, not too far to the north of us. So I think while Tristan and Rex are down in this area, they might have a chance to hear the leopards. So I'm going to go have a quick look on the northern boundary, see if the lions have come back from the north. We could hear them roaring this morning. Fingers crossed we'll have lion and leopard this morning. Remember, hashtag SafariLive if you have any questions for us. It'd be great to hear from you. But for a lot of this morning, it's going to be listening. Morning, Carol. Carol wants to know, how long will their mating continue for? Well, it's dependent on whether it's full estrus or false estrus, but if it's a full estrus, it's normally about 4 days, and they'll mate almost every 15 minutes for the first couple of days, and as you get close to the 4th day, the gaps between the mating increase. And that, we've got beautiful bird sounds this morning. A hippo, that's not what I'm listening for. We want. Okay, I'm going to go have a quick look around Buffelshoek Dam for those lions that were roaring, and then I'm going to come back and sit in the Mulwati and listen again. Now, there are some lion tracks around camp as well, and I think that's what Tristan and Rexon are looking for. But being on foot, they're in a much better spot or better position to be able to hear if those leopards mate than us that are driving in the vehicle. Snazzy would like to know, would a leopard mate if it's not old enough yet? No, not it. Again, it's one of those situations that is very dependent. So in an area where you've got a healthy leopard population like we do, there's no chance of a young male mating early. The big dominant males around. With leopard females, normally they'll try avoid mating till they're ready. So I'm just looking for some tracks. Now, they can move quite long distances, and leopard females will often move 2 or 3 territories over to mate, and they want to make sure they mate with any male that they might possibly come into contact with. So if they do take their cubs, or that male wanders into their area, that male leopard will assume that it's the father of the cubs and therefore not kill them. So the biggest killer of leopard cubs is actually other male leopards. So it's not lions and hyenas, although they will kill leopard cubs given the opportunity, but about 70% of leopard cub mortalities in this area are from other male leopards. Okay, well, the nice thing is we've got 3 of us out here this morning, so between the 3 of us I'm sure we're going to find something. So let's go see where Jamie's checking now.
I'm on the southern boundary, and I'm going to tell you that 2 things are going to happen to me this morning. The first, and relatively imminent, is the fact that I'm going to need to change a tyre. I'm just trying to casually ignore it because at the moment it's not flat to the point it's going to do any damage. And the second is that I'm going to find Thandi. That is what I have determined. So just so that those of you who are invested in the hyena den know, it's not active at the moment. Tax has already been passed there to check. There is a herd of buffalo standing all over it. So while not in any way dangerous to the cub won't come out and the adults won't go to the den site until they've moved off, in all likelihood. So it's not active. And I just thought I'd help out with the leopards because I think the fact that there's another female right in the center of Thandi's territory is not going to go down well. Of course, there's always the possibility that she will take a more sensible approach, swallow her pride, and let it happen, because she's still got her young daughter with her, Tlalamba. Apparently, I haven't seen Tlalamba yet. But I think, knowing Thandi as we do, she's not going to be impressed. Marcy, you want to know if Thandi has been spotted recently. We found her tracks, or Brent found her tracks, crossing out of Djuma. This is all hyena, and I'm just a bit rusty. I'm looking at tracks on the ground. They crossed out into sort of the northern portion of Torchwood 2 days ago. So after I had her with the little Dacre kill on my first day back. I don't think anyone's seen her since, but that's okay. She's a mysterious leopard. So I saw her, 3 days ago? On Tuesday afternoon. So she's around, and I'm thinking, knowing Thandi as we do, I think she's going to come back and sit and watch the mating pair and growl and blow spit bubbles as her mother has done in the past. So, I'm going to do a patrol of the eastern boundary, double check where Thandi's tracks were last seen. Now, it's tricky looking for tracks while driving. Fortunately, Tristan is out on foot to help us.
Indeed, we are, Jamie, and it is a very warm welcome to everybody from our bushwalk team. So, as Jamie mentioned, my name is Tristan on camera. I've got Sebastian this morning, and it is beautiful, beautiful start to our day. Seems like there's a lot of possibilities that could be taking place for our morning, and so we should have a really epic walk as we look around for things. The first thing that we've been hearing, obviously, is the mating leopards that Brent was on, but there's also been a lot of buffalo around. So we've been hearing buffalo around Gallagher Pan, and we thought we'd come and have a look. But as we came down towards to Gallagher Pan, what we found is that lions are also in the area. So over here you can see that there's the triangular back pad. It's been a little bit kind of damaged, but there's the toes as well. Now these tracks look as though they go to water, and then you see they come back again. So here it is over here coming back at me. So there the toes are in front, and there's the pad at the back. Now these look like for both female and male lions, so I wonder if maybe there's a portion of the Niconico pride that isn't around and kind of milling about in this area. So it should be interesting to see if they maybe are hunting these buffalo. The buffalo seem to be up towards our north sort of west, and this is where that track goes back, is towards the northwest. You can see quite clearly here where they've kind of walked along, and they've obviously gone to Gallego Pan for water and then decided to come back into this area. Now who these lions could be is interesting. It could be the kind of Mangan males, it could be, you know, like I say, a portion of the Niconico pride. I don't see a really big male lion track in here, so I don't think that it is, you know, is one of the Evoker boys. I know 2 of them were up north yesterday, and so I think in all likelihood it must be Niconico's. Now when I'm looking at the tracks, it's a little bit more open. If you come have a look at this one, this here is a small track. I mean, that is for a female. So if I put my hand next to it, most definitely a lioness or sub-adult lioness. This is not even a fully grown lioness that we've got here. So it looks like Niconico pride must have been around. They obviously were around Gallego Pan last night, and Gallego Pan, given how dry it is really going to be a hive of activity. So we're definitely going to follow these tracks. We're going to try and work out where exactly they went and whether or not they could be potentially hunting the buffalo that are around this area. It would be interesting if they do. At the moment, Gallego Pan is completely kind of open. There's nothing really sort of drinking here, which is probably a good thing. Walking into a herd of buffalo with lions hunting it generally is not the best idea, and so I'm quite glad that we get a chance. We actually start kind of heading off and actually tracking them. But it's interesting because there's buffalo here last night, and we can still hear them. I can hear them kind of calling to our sort of north, like I say, northwest. And I wonder if these lions aren't just trailing them a little bit in that direction. The interesting part about it is we know that the buffalo were around, but you can see that the lion tracks are all over the top of the buffalo tracks at the moment. So they've come in here, they've drank, and then I'm pretty sure they've smelt these buffalo and probably now trailing the buffalo as they leave this area and start to go and try and find grazing and to start kind of looking around. But definitely lots and lots of little lion paw prints all over the buff tracks that are at Gallego Pan. So exciting times, that's for sure. So Tom, there's a few ways that you can tell female and male. The biggest thing is obviously females generally have much smaller feet than a big male, and then in a sub-adult male, so I'll show you in this track is going to be the easiest one to show you with, because this is for an adult female. But what you'll get when you have a male lion and a female lion is the back of the pads are very different. So here on a female track, if you follow this area here and you come upwards like this, you'll notice that there is a very sharp bend in the track. So you get this kind of almost an arrow that forms, whereas a male lion would have had a very rounded circular kind of pad that came out a little bit more, and you wouldn't get that sharp kind of bend at all. It gets more circular at this back area here, and then also the size of it would have been much bigger. This particular track, if I put my hand down, comes sort of halfway up my hand. A male lion would be pretty much the same as my hand, so a male lion would probably in all likelihood finish around there and would be a lot wider with much bigger, chunkier toes than what we're seeing here. But these tracks are definitely very fresh. They're all over the top of the buffalo tracks, and they've been milling about all over the place here. They drank, then they've kind of been back and forth, and so it's going to be really interesting to kind of see where they went and how many are actually here, because there's a lot of tracks that are spread out all over the place for both lion and buffalo. So exciting. Like I say, we should have a good time of it this morning. It's going to be a lot of probably walking, because generally when lions chase buffalo, there's a lot of kind of walking that takes place, and they tend to follow quite a bit. Now, I'm just trying to see where Rex has gone to be able to work out which exact route that we're going to head. Now, talking about tracking, it sounds like the man who invented tracking, the greatest tracker of them all, Brent Lewis Smith, is hot on the trail of some of our animals.
I wish, Tristan, I wish. We actually haven't found any tracks. Those lions we heard calling almost certainly to the north of our boundary. So I just checked along the northern boundary, and I think it's different to the lions that Tristan is following. It sounded like a single male roaring this morning. So I'm heading back towards the area where we last heard them leopard. After their little break, they might be a little bit more amorous now. Just carefully checking the roads to see if there are any tracks. And the one thing about this that could pop up, we're not too far away from camp. Hyena. So it seems like we're all tracking and desperately trying to find something this morning. So let's go see how Jamie's faring further to the southeast.
I'm having a great time. I mean, I am tracking, but no, don't fly away. I wanted to show you some white-crested helmet shrikes, which I can sort of see over there. So, admittedly, no luck at all when it comes to the larger mammals, and in fact I don't think I have seen one thing while we've been driving around, but that's okay. There's other things to keep us entertained out here as well, including a family of white-crested helmet shrikes, and I really like them, and I have not seen. It's nice to just sit and enjoy some of the smaller things on a morning like this. It also means that Dave and myself can sunbathe a little bit after the chill of driving around. Oh, having a properly thorough groom there, or preen would be a better way of describing it. It's all fluffed up, making sure that it gets those misaligned downy feathers. Ah, Chris, how marvellous. Chris says that this is a new bird for their list. That is fantastic. Sorry, Chris. Chris could go both ways. It could be a man or a woman, so we'll go with they. Now, what we encourage lots of our viewers to do is, or all of our viewers, if you are so inclined, is to keep a list of all of the birds that we show you out on safari. If you want, you can include a screenshot within that. I mean, it's entirely up to you how you do it. And we have viewers that have bird lists over 200. I think there might even be one or two over 300. So if you are a new viewer and you'd like to add to your bird list, that was a white-crested helmet shrike, which I think is a very descriptive name. Bird names often are. Lilac-breasted rollers and... No, I can't think of another one. Can't think of one other. I know what I'm trying to say. But yes, bird names tend... Oh, it's a cinnamon bun bird. Chitty Chatty Meg, I'll have a word with you in a moment. But about your bird list. Still laughing about that. Even Darby is. Always a bittersweet bird, this. The cinnamon breast. Favorite birds. Because it was also known by one of our young viewers as the cinnamon bun bird. It's nice that we can think of her in moments like this. So there we go, a cinnamon bun bird. Right, Chitty Chatty Meg. Chitty Chatty Meg got to 3 birds on her list and then gave up. Fair enough. Let's put it this way, it's not for everyone. You've got to think of it as a treasure hunt. A treasure hunt for pretty birds. I'm going to tell you the secret, Chitty Chatty Meg. I've always encouraged people to keep a birds list of the birds they've seen live. I made it to about 3 as well when I first started here, and I also gave up, but don't tell anyone that. So I cannot be terribly... Shame on me. I cannot be terribly judgmental there. I'm looking at the impala and then there's a nyala behind them, but not the most spectacular view I've ever had. So there we go. Is it our first mammal of the morning? It is. Our first mammal of the morning. There's actually 2 different species there. You just can't see the second one. Oh, you can. Actually. I did briefly see it. A herd of impala and 1 nyala in the background. 1 big nyala bull. That is not a case of confused identity. He knows who he is and he knows who they are. But it's just a situation where safety in numbers is always preferable. Something equivalent to a sort of antelope feeding party. There you go. Well, you can keep a mammals list, you know, if you really want to. There's slightly less of them than there are birds. So if you're a new viewer and you'd like to start in a slightly less challenging manner, you can keep a mammals list. It's a little bit easier. So you have an impala and nyala. And the nyala is spelt for our new viewers Nyala. I'm sure you're eager to find out how Tristan's tracking is going. Oh, how wonderfully alliterative. Let us go and trundle with tracking Tristan.
Well, our tracking is still going well. It was an epic fight that took place here last night. There has been buffalo running in every direction, lions all over the place. It really looks like a kind of scene that lasted for quite some time. You can actually see some of where the buffalo were running. So these kind of big scrape marks here, often finding this kind of patch within a lion track very close behind it. So the lions were definitely targeting these buffalo last night. There was lots of interaction all throughout this block, and so what we're trying to do now is trying to just catch up. The lion tracks and the buffalo tracks are kind of keep moving, and so we know where the buffalo are. Seb actually bumped into the buffalo just now because Seb tried to help Conrad with the kind of getting our tech issues sorted out, and they drove up to Buffelshoek to the repeater there. And they found the buffalo on the next road that we're going to intersect. And so what we're thinking is that somewhere between us and those buffalo is where these lions should be. But there was definitely a lot of kind of commotion and lots of chasing one another round and round in circles to actually see how these kind of go along. And you can actually just see the kind of complete destruction that buffalo bring along when they're stampeding around. Everything is just kind of littered with tracks and dung. And it seems like when they are running and being chased by lions, that they lighten the load. And because the amount of poo that is everywhere is far more than normal, you can see it's just a complete kind of mess of dung in every direction. Exactly, it's a minefield. I think I've stood in about 4 patches now. But this is what happens when they're kind of agitated and when they're running around. You'll find that they do defecate quite a bit, and so there's lots and lots of activity in these areas, and it's going to mean that we're going to have to kind of, 1, be very careful about what we're doing, but 2, we're going to have to just be aware that there could very well be a kill somewhere in these areas, and so we have to listen and just pay attention to how we go about it. But very cool to kind of see and to try and kind of figure out exactly what happened. Right, we're going to keep up with these buffalo tracks. We're going to see where the buffalo herd goes, see if the lion tracks keep following. If they don't, then we'll loop back. But in the meantime, I'll send you back to Jamie, who's adding to her mammal list.
I am adding to the mammal list. Admittedly, we're starting pretty small and relatively basic with, or continuing, with a tree squirrel. Sitting doing exactly what we were earlier on this morning. It was just, I wouldn't say it was cold this morning, but there was a little nip to the breeze, and I think that the squirrel is just waiting to warm up before going about its business of the day. Apparently it's going to be hot today, which is standard for October. I think probably we can just expect that now from every single day. Look how fluffy it is. It looks a little damp to me. Jojo, oh, everybody's chirpy this morning, or this evening, depending upon where you are. Jojo says scroll number, what was it, 6,930? Something like that. I think your point, no matter what the number, is well made. Yes, indeed. We have shown you many a squirrel on our live drives. You never know, it might be the first squirrel for someone who's just discovered our live stream. It's our squirrel list. This was Sammy, but Sammy's gone now. No, Sammy's not gone. Here's Sammy. Sammy the positive squirrel. I can't even remember how that came about. That's right. Sam and his positive squirrel.
Hiding
It is hiding. Come on. You never know. You know, often we neglect things like squirrels and we miss out on special moments. There's always the possibility that there's actually baby squirrels hidden in the trunk of this marula, and we just haven't realized because we're so busy rushing around chasing cats and buffalo and all sorts of things. Okay, admittedly, I don't think there's baby squirrels in this tree, but I could be wrong. Okay. And while our squirrel descends from the tree, let's join Tristan in case his giraffe decides to run off.
Indeed, we don't want our giraffe to run at all because it is such a beautiful picture in this morning light of this giraffe just kind of on the edge of this drainage line. And it seems as though this giraffe is more curious in us than we are of it. It's kind of just sitting and staring at us, looking and kind of watching what's going on. I suppose it's probably heard and seen a lot during the course of the night. It's had to hear mating leopards, and pretty sure it wasn't too far away from this buffalo lion chaos that erupted last night. And so this giraffe, I'm sure, has had its ears and its eyes kind of perked up all night and into the morning. Move into an area, see something, stop and stare. And whether it's us as people or predators, this is pretty kind of normal for giraffe behavior, is that they'll try and kind of get into these kind of opener areas and then turn and just face us and stare directly at us. Sometimes you'll even see when they get something like a lion, they'll actually move a little bit closer just to keep that lion in sort of view, and then they kind of just stare down at it. So very, very cool to see. You can see it's turned a little bit now because it's facing where Rex is at the moment, and very, very cool. Now, a lot of you are commenting how close I am. Well, funny enough, I'm actually not that close. What's happening is you're seeing a compression in the lens, and so I look a lot closer to that giraffe than I really am. The kind of giraffe is probably, I would say, from where I am now, maybe about 30 meters, 35 meters, and I believe that I can raise my hand and touch its horns. Kirsty, you'll have to direct me as to how far. To the left?
No, left.
That's right.
Up, you can scratch its chin. Scratch its chin.
There we go, we're scratching its...
Yeah, there.
So we're scratching its chin. Good giraffe. Stay still. There we go. So we're just messing around, but the giraffe is actually kind of not that close. I mean, I would say about 30 meters away from us, which is perfectly safe with the giraffe. I mean, there have been reported cases of people being badly injured by a giraffe. I've seen kind of... It was actually recently in our little town that's very close to us in Hoedspruit, where Sebastian lives and a number of the other staff as well. And it's there was actually a lady, Shame, that was attacked with her toddler, and they were very, very badly injured. And in fact, I think they still are in ICU by a giraffe. And so it's not an animal that you mess around with. This kind of distance that we're at now is perfectly fine. There's a big otherwise they can fall. You do this in extreme kind of slow mode, or if they really kind of have something chasing them. So the distance that we're at the moment is perfectly fine. We're also not approaching that giraffe too closely. There's no females around that he could potentially see us as a threat to his females, and also no females with little babies. And so that's why even, a giraffe at this distance is really not a problem. Just watch us probably as we walk past, but still very, very cool to see. They are beautiful animals, particularly in this golden sort of morning light. Jacob, yes, most definitely lions would hunt giraffe. You would find that giraffe often can be an animal that lions will go after generally when they're a little bit more desperate. So here in this particular part of the world, buffalo are really what lions want to go after. Instead of the mothers seem to work better for buffalo out here. Very few giraffe get pulled down in the Sabi Sands area. But if you go into the sort of central parts of Kruger, where you do get a lot of buffalo, but you also get a really large amount of giraffe, you'll find the prides there get quite large, and they have to then find food. And so giraffe become a much more common target. And funny enough, the lions are very clever. What they've done in the Kruger Park area is that they've used tar roads where they get a little bit slippery, particularly if it rains, and they try to chase the giraffe over the tar or the asphalt. And that slipperiness, then the giraffe giraffe falls, and the lions can then hunt them a lot easier. So lions work out techniques, but yes, giraffe is very definitely on the menu for a lion, particularly a sick or injured or baby giraffe. Those are all kind of animals that will be hunted quite regularly. Good, we're going to leave our giraffe for now. He's just kind of moving off. Also, I want to get back onto the trail of these lions. It's starting to get quite warm now, so I'd imagine that these lions are going to start looking for some shade to kind of lie down, which will hopefully allow us to kind of catch up with them. So that's going to be the plan, is for us to carry on and try and see what we can find. Right. Now, I believe that we've got a slight little technical issue with buffering, and so what we're going to do is we're going to quickly just send you all to a tech loop, and then we'll be back very, very shortly. I'll see you just now.
We're sitting quietly in the Moati River, hoping that Tingane and his lady friend are going to make some noise. Been here for about 5 minutes, we've heard nothing yet. And what we are, if they don't call, I'm just going to keep driving down the Moati, see if we can find their tracks. You can hear a barred owlet calling behind us somewhere. That normally they should have been mating constantly if it had been at the beginning. I think this might be towards the end of their mating. Proud cat mama is wondering, how do leopards know when they've mated enough times? Well, what happens is that her hormones will decrease, and those hormones that are urging her to mate will stop being produced. And of course, they'll be able to, the males will be able to pick up that from her urine and just from smelling her. But no noises yet. Let's go a little bit further down the riverbed and listen again. We might find some tracks which also help. Apparently Jamie has found me a Christmas present.
Well, you know, I never got Brett's birthday present either because we were in the Mara. So in case you're wondering, oh, nearly disappeared off down into the tyre. Look at the size of that. It's enormous. I will give it to Brent. He can, I don't know what he'll do with it. That is the biggest African potato I have ever seen. This time of year, and I'm going to pick it up. I'll just put it there as a temporary holding spot. And this time of year... Sorry, I heard something. At this time of year, things are a little bit desperate for our herbivores. There's not much to eat. Now, this has been sniffed out by an elephant and dug up, and it is roughly the size of, would we say a football? Not quite, but almost. And it's definitely been kicked around. So animals like elephants have a phenomenal sense of smell. There's nothing else, though, that would have been able to dig out something like this as intact as this is. So porcupine will eat them as well. Most animals actually will eat them in terms of our herbivore collection. But this was definitely an elephant, and you can see where it's been kicked around, possibly chewed on, although I'm not sure that those are teeth marks there. I think that's from where it was, where the tusks were dug underneath it or pushed underneath it and then broken off the root system here. So yes, African potato is indeed edible for humans. You'd have to cook it first, but it has been prescribed for all sorts of ailments, anything from colds and flu to because it's just said, imagine how many fries you could make. I know, you could set up a takeaway here. Oh, it's actually surprisingly heavy. I mean, this probably weighs about, what, 5 kilos, give or take, so about 10 pounds. It's not, I mean, it's not a weight, but it's... Ah, now Conrad wants to know where it grows, at the base of a tree. Pretty much. I mean, that's how the elephants have found it. They were feeding on a combretum, or a bush willow, and obviously sniffed out the potato underneath it. It's a tuber. Makes sense. It's a storage organ, and it gets sniffed out in that manner. So much like eating raw potato, you don't want to do that. In the same way, you ideally shouldn't eat raw African potato. It was a proud moment in our country's history. Not to put too fine a point on it, or I better keep this now. It's Brent's Christmas present. It was a proud moment in our history when our health minister back in the day suggested that it might be more effective than antiretrovirals in tackling the scourge that has affected a vast portion or percentage of Africa's population. I mean, it's good for you. Not that good for you. Unfortunately, it does not cure all. So there we go. There's Brent's Christmas present. Give it to Scrooge. Shame, I actually can't call him Scrooge. The one thing Brent is not is stingy. He's a very generous person. I'm sure he'll love his African potato, though. Myself, on the other hand, well, this is the perfect gift. Free, slightly smelly, perfect. Everything anyone could want in a gift. So is it really that close to Christmas that we're talking about Christmas gifts already? No. Kirsty tells me there's Christmas decorations in the shops. Shouldn't it be Halloween decorations first? Right. Things are looking a little dire in terms of our mission this morning. We have failed miserably to find the mating leopards, which should be one of the easiest things to do, because they're so noisy. We have failed in finding the lions, and so we shall sit and watch a red-billed hornbill sifting through a pile of dung to search for insects. It's actually quite fascinating. I know I've stopped and looked at this before. We've done plenty of this. Look how quickly it works. So those termites are tiny, that's why you can't see what it's eating. It's almost stop motion-y, isn't it? And what it's doing is grabbing with the tip of its beak and then really, in a way that's very coordinated, it's actually chucking the termites back and swallowing them whole. So that's what that process is. That's why its beak keeps going open and shut and open and shut. It's actually eating. It just happens to be eating really small things. It's quite cool. This one over there perhaps hasn't picked the best spot. Not quite as productive as its partners. Oh no, not too bad. Just has to do slightly more movement. You say it's like eating with chopsticks. You've got to eat fast or you'll starve. Yeah, I've never really mastered chopsticks. I like to think that I have. I set about it with all the enthusiasm of a professional chopstick user and promptly drop my food all over the show. I'm not yet at the stage where I would call myself coordinated. Okay, I did hear a sound. I was not mistaken. I can hear some elephants. Probably the same elephants that pulled out this tuba. I think we're going to go around and say hello to them because they're right there. But it does mean that I have to turn around and make my way there. So while we do that and find our way around, let's go to tracking Tristan to see where he is.
Well, so far, we're still just following tracks at the moment. We're just trying to work out exactly where everybody's gone. What it looks like is that the buffalo are still heading northwards, and the lions have split off now. They're not on the trail of these buffalo anymore. Seems like they maybe got a hiding from the buffalo and have decided maybe to go and put themselves in the shade and try and rest. What is evidently clear from this morning already is that today is going to be a seriously warm day. We've had a lot of mornings lately where we go out and it's fairly cool and not too bad, but this morning it is warm already. It is hot, the sun feels hot, and so I think we're going to have a very warm kind of feel to our day, which is not going to make life kind of easy for cats. They're going to probably try and find shade early on today, particularly if they were active last night and they were hunting. They're going to probably in all likelihood try and get into some sort of shady areas where they can kind of spend some time and rest. But what we're going to do is, our plan is, Rex and I are just chatting now, we're going to try and head up kind of towards where the buffalo are going, try and see if we can get a view on them, and then from there we're going to kind of cut behind them and round a little bit, in case what these lions did is, after being chased the first time, what sometimes lions will do is they'll break off and they'll go right round, and then they go and just kind of sit and they listen for those buffalo and almost walk parallel with them, trying to kind of listen for them and then cut them off. So that's why we're going to try and just kind of come back a little bit, but at a bit of a different angle. Now, Chris, you say you can hear lions now by the dam cam. I must be honest, I didn't hear anything. Rexon's probably going to be in a better place to have heard them, given that we're talking. Now, Chris, were they full-on roaring, or was it just contact calling that you heard? Because that will determine distances that we are working with here and how far we need to go in order to check for them. But definitely didn't hear anything. Doesn't sound like... Well, if it was a full-blooded roar, then they're definitely not anywhere near us, because we would have picked that up quite quickly while we, even over us kind of talking and while we're walking, we would have heard it very easily. So I'm hoping that it's contact calls, in which case... contact calls. Okay, that might change things a little bit. They might be still much closer to camp than what we thought. In fact, they could be very close to camp, and we were just walking around them. So we'll try and see. Let's have a look at what we can do. Let's try and see these buffalo quickly, because I don't think they're too far. Can still hear them, and then we'll shoot down towards the dam. Come to the west would make sense. Chris, thank you for all this information, because well, the last kind of tracks we had of the lions were sort of shifting slightly westwards towards kind of Gallagher shortcut, so that would be perfect kind of place, and we might actually not be too far from them at all. But haven't heard anything yet. I'll speak to Rex just now and ask him if he's kind of picked up any audio for them while we've been walking. But what's happening at the moment is buffalo are still kind of pushing north, so I'd imagine that the lions must be to the south of us. So here's Rex is just showing me that the lions have actually walked here as well, so they're still kind of moving northwards behind these buffalo. So I wonder if maybe this pride isn't split, and that's why there's contact calls. Some of them are up here already with the buffalo, and the others are still trying to catch up. But definitely lion tracks heading northwards, so that's kind of going to be interesting to try and see where these head to and what's going to go on. But let's keep going. Let's see how this pans out. Hopefully we're not going to get trampled by a herd of buffalo being chased by lions. We'll see. Should be fun though, either way. Right, onward we go. While we do that though, let's send you across to Brent, who is still sitting patiently waiting for his leopards to make an appearance.
Well, they have gone absolutely silent, and we've now checked this whole area in the Mawati. We're still in the Mawati River at the moment, and no tracks, no sounds. I think they might be up between Central and the Mawati. Let's have a look here. Maybe they ran into Tristan's lions and that's why they've gone quiet. We've seen lots and lots of duikers. You see it there? It's moving. Lots and lots of little duikers in and around. Ham? You got him? We've seen a lot of little duiker in and around these thickets. But no luck with the cat so far. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to continue out. And we've checked now the northern sections of the Mawati River. And maybe go check. Maybe they moved a bit further south. You never know. But it sounds like Jamie has found one of her favorite creatures.
I have found lots of my favorite creatures. Unfortunately, my creatures are in some dense vegetation, but this is the herd of elephants that I heard. And I would have had to really have struggled this morning if I hadn't heard them, because there's probably about 100 elephants or so in this dense drainage line or dried up river system. I mentioned that times are tough in terms of food. That's why you'll often find the elephants frequenting the dried up riverbeds, because even though they might be dry on the surface, there's still more underground water, and as a result the plant life is slightly more, what would the word be, I suppose, just better nutrition. I can't think of a word I'm looking for. I'm going to see if I can move forward and get us another view. This was the only open spot I could find, but I think some of them are moving across here, and since it is a big herd, we might get lucky. Apparently there's Chris Rogue tells us that she can hear contact calls, lion contact calls. Here we go, there's some across there towards the dam. I'm going to head that way because it kills several birds with one stone, hypothetically, or metaphorically, more like, because I can check where Brent thinks the leopards might be, and I can go and see if I can find those lions as well. So I will head off there unless these elephants come out nicely into the open. I'm sure they've been up and down during the course of the evening trying to catch those buffalo. For now though, we've got a relatively pleasant view, so we'll just sit and enjoy the ellies. Beautiful, peaceful morning. A youngster over there suckling. Mom's stopped for a moment to allow it to do so. While you watch them feeding, it really gives you a good idea of just how unpleasant the feeding options are at the moment. I don't think the elephants mind terribly.
Well, indeed we have. Not only are we making our way towards the buffalo herd, but we've got the tracks for the lions here too. So I'm pretty sure there's one lioness that's hanging about in this area, possibly the rest as well. But we've got a few kind of male buffalo that are just hanging off the back end of the herd, and we should get a really kind of nice view of them just coming from left to right past us. So if we just get into a nice kind of spot in here, Seb, we should be able to see these guys really nicely. They kind of, I'm sure, aware that we're here. They're aware that there's something going on. There's obviously a bit of kind of looking in our direction, which is quite typical for buffalo. But what we're going to do is we're just going to take this to a wider audience, and so I'm going to keep quiet for 2 seconds. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to a sunny, warm morning in South Africa. As you can see, we've got a few buffalo that are just moving through the thickets, and we're out on foot at the moment. We've been tracking lions that have been chasing after these buffalo all night, and we bumped into the back end of the herd right now. My name is Tristan on camera. I've got Sebastian, and we are coming to you live, which means that we want you to ask us lots of questions and post any comments that you have in the comment section below. Now, I was saying that this is the back end of the herd, so basically what we've got is if you maybe come around this side, because there'll be a nice view for you kind of opening up. But there's basically the back end of the herd is the males that are kind of just trying to protect the group itself. The herd is probably just over 100, maybe a little bit more than that. And so what often happens is these big bull buffalo will be right at the back end, and they'll make sure, especially if lions are around, that they're protecting the babies and the females from being kind of hunted by being at the back. They're the ones with the serious weaponry, the size and the bulk to really kind of go after lions. And so they're an animal that will kind of really fight back when they want to. Now, of course, that means that being on foot with them can be a little bit dangerous, and so you've got to be a bit careful. But we luckily have a nice structure in the form of a termite mound that we can go up to. The wind is not blowing towards them. We've got a nice kind of wind that's blowing almost across us, so everything is kind of working in our favor to get a really great view of these buffalo as they move on. And you can see that buffalo, it's not really kind of aware of us. It's sort of put up its head and listened for a bit, but now it's kind of walking off. What we're going to do, though, is we're going to try and just see if we can get one last view of them. I don't see any others coming around the corner. There was a group of about 4 or 5 buffalo that were around. So what we're going to do is just try and sneak around here. There should be a nice little gap from behind this little thicket. Now, it's important when you approach animals is to try and remember that you've got to take wind into account, and so wind is always an important kind of part of it. The second thing is to try and reduce your noise as much as possible, so keeping your voice down, watching where you're stepping, making sure when you're walking you find yourself a really nice kind of safe patch to go and sit behind and to be able to view these guys. So I'm hoping So, Rosemary, you say you really truly enjoy watching buffalo. Well, they're an amazing animal. They're big, strong, powerful beasts that can really kind of give you a sense of how small you really are in comparison to some of these natural animals. And so watching them is always kind of, I suppose, it kind of gives you a sense of place in some respects, particularly when you're on foot with them. I'm just trying to see if I can get us a view. Unfortunately, it's not as open as I want it to be, but there's a view that's kind of straight through from where I am at the moment. So, Seb, let's try keep going. We'll try to get you in a nice kind of spot so that we can see. Of course, now we also have to worry about the fact that there might be lions around as well. Lions typically will go after buffalo, and when they do, it causes a stampede, and so that's also something we've got to be aware of. Luckily, I'm pretty sure that there is only the one female around, and so the likelihood of her hunting is probably very slim. Yes, in my opinion, yes, buffalo can be extremely dangerous on foot, and probably more so than lions in many respects. So one needs to be very careful when you're on foot with a buffalo, and to make sure that you are very aware of where they are at all times. I'm just trying to kind of aim us towards a termite mound that's not too far from here. Right, now let's just check this termite mound that's up ahead. If we can't see anything from there, then I think we're probably going to leave and pull back a little bit, because obviously we don't want to chase these buffalo too much. So let's just try to get towards this mound. The best thing about being on a walk is you kind of got to activate all your senses to be able to hear and see and kind of smell and work out exactly where these animals could be. It's really quite something to be out here on foot. Now we're going to cross a road. I'm not sure where these buffalo have gone. They seem to have just disappeared a little bit. Let's just get around this mound. You can see some of their tracks have already gone across the road in this direction. Oh, there they are there. Alright, Seb, we should get a fairly nice view from up on the mound itself. So if you just come up here, you're right there, Seb. So we're just going to see the back end. So Seb is trying to balance his way up the mound. You good there, Seb? Alright, so they're just in the distance now, kind of moving quite quickly towards a actual water point. That's where they're heading to, I think, is to go and get water. There's a dam that's kind of in the same direction that they're heading, and so I think that's where they're off to. But I can hear most of the herd is around that area, but they're slowly going to disappear. So we're going to carry on. We're going to try to see if we can find these lions, but it's been an absolute pleasure having you all with us. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and so from Sebastian and myself, we'll see you all next time. Right, well, that was fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to carry on, try to find these lions. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to Brent Leo Smith.
Yeah, well, those leopards are being rather useless. They're not making any noise. And I think they're in a very thick area just to the north of the Mawati and some Timbwiti thickets there. So we're going to go do a little bit of a boundary patrol along the northern boundary. See what's happening up there. Who knows, maybe we'll get lucky with another leopard or some lions. Or some elephants. Hello, elephants. There we go. Small herd by the looks of things. I can only see 3, but there could be quite a few more hidden off in the thickets. So wonderful to have lots and lots of ellies around. So I'm going to try and move down a little bit closer to the one. There's the one is chewing out nicely there. Cindy would like to know, does an elephant's trunk continue to grow throughout its life? No, Cindy, it does not. Once they reach adulthood, their trunk stops growing. Their tusks, however, will grow throughout their life. Hi, guys. Hello, mister. Hello, little boy. He's probably around 18, 19 years old. Now, that bush you see in front of his face is a Timbwiti tree. He's not actually feeding off it at the moment. He's feeding off what looks like to be a little Acacia exuvialis in front. There, that's what he's been feeding off there. A flaky bark. And he's decided he's done with that said flaky bark. Now, at this time of the year, you'll find an elephant's diet is very varied in terms of the different species that they'll eat. Far more varied than the summer months, when they can be a lot more choosy about what they want to eat. But in winter, they eat what's available. Or dry season. The winter's pretty much over. It's starting to get very, very warm already. Anna Marie is wondering, is it the dryness that's caused the elephants to return? Yes and no. And the ellies were probably just off on their marches, and they've been feeding in an area. They might have exhausted certain food choices in the area that they've been, and they haven't been here for a while, so they've got a bit more choice in this area. So we can go forward a little bit, Craig, so we can get eye level with this cow. Yeah, it's not often you get to look down on an elephant. Hey, little guys. You gonna come give us some fun at the Djuma Pan just now? I think there's a good chance that they will head in that direction as the day warms up. It's the closest water to where we are now. And see, twisting and turning the branch through her teeth, removing the nutrient-rich cambium layer. Done. Time for the next one. Oh, 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 oh. Bit of a argy-bargy there. The older female pushing the little female out of the way. Obviously there was a choice treat that the bigger one wanted. Can't see what exactly the choice treat is, but it's green, and now I'm not going to be able to see because it's gone. Now you can see those massive veins behind her ears there, and of course that's the elephant's cooling system, their inboard air conditioner. And so the warm blood will come out into those big veins. They can have just under 2 gallons of blood in their ears. And as they flap, they cool it down, send it through to the rest of their body. Now, it's one of the reasons why elephants, even though they're very big and they're very dark, can operate in extreme heat at all times of the day, where a lot of other animals struggle. It's because of that massive network of capillaries and veins in their ears. And you'll often see when they do find some mud or water, they will blow that mud and water behind their ears to even increase the sort of rate of the temperature falling of the blood. So they've adapted to be able to survive in incredibly hot climates and feed. They need to feed for the majority of the day. So if they had to sort of rest during the heat of the day, they wouldn't get enough food. So that's where they've developed these wonderful ears. Hey, big girl. Yes, I know you're big. You're very scary. Courtney is talking about how beautiful an elephant's eyelashes are. This girl's got really long ones. Now, of course, that's to protect their eyes. So you can see how long this one's eyelashes are. They're incredibly long. Now, when you're putting your head into a thorny thicket to feed, you obviously don't want to spike your eye, so those eyelashes will help them make sure that they don't do that by feeling. Hey, big girl. Now, she is so close at the moment that we can't move. About 2.5 meters from the corner of our vehicle. And heading behind us. I'm going to wait for the Ellies to move off so I can do the same. While we do that, Jamie has got the animal that is the emblem of the Sabi Sands Game Reserve.
How very appropriate. I've actually got 2 emblems of the Sabi Sand, and this is the first waterbuck that I have seen since my arrival back on Djuma. 2 spectacular waterbuck bulls, both in their prime, and I realised that when South Africans say the word bull, B-U-L-L, We don't say it particularly clearly, and I've had several viewers confused thinking that I'm saying bill or ball or something, because South Africans and our accent, we're not terribly good at the whole vowel thing. We tend to make the same sound for pretty much every single vowel. So 2 waterbuck bulls. And it also gives me an opportunity to sit and listen. It's frustrating. I know that there's lions somewhere here, and I know that there's a leopard somewhere here, and I can't find either group. So we will settle for some waterbuck, and he's winking at us. Probably because a fly was sitting on his eye. I'm going to try... Kirst says it's because the waterbuck is in on this whole game and knows exactly where the lions and leopards are. And you know, she's absolutely right, because they probably do. Are you going to run away, mister, if I move forward? Because I would like a nice clear view of you. Just let the engine run for a second. And then we'll edge forward. Darby, say when. A little bit more. A little bit more. There we go. Jamie does have something wrong with his eye. Twitch, twitch, twitch. Oh, that is one stressed waterbuck. I know that feeling. That's the face I make at the end of a TV show in the last episode. There you go, Kirsten's on the same page. Kirsten says it's her at the end of a work cycle. Yes, that is exactly how we all feel. I've noticed that my fingernails have all grown back after 3 weeks of leave, which is such a pleasure. I wonder how long that will last. At least my eyes haven't started twitching yet. I've only been back 3 days, though. That's not saying much. That was poor Conrad this morning, when he realized that there was no internet and that he'd have to go racing off to go and fix the problem. Waterbuck Bull has no idea what we're talking about. I actually think that these two might have been having a little bit of a set too. A sparring match of sorts. They're both evenly matched. They're both around about the same size. And to see them together on their own like this, I think they might have been sparring. And that might be why that waterbuck's blinking that way. It might have an injury or two around the eye area. That and the flies, of course. Now, the insects are back out in full flow, although not as much as they will be when the rains arrive. I think there are lots of flies around because of that buffalo herd. You can actually smell them now. Well, there's definitely a little hint of aggression there. See how the one immediately turned to face the other? I have seen one serious, fierce waterbuck fight during my time at SafariLive, and that was at Chitwa Dam. And the two of them were crashing into each other. There was dust flying. It was very dramatic. An intense scene of competition. Neither of these two, I don't see any females around. Kurt, there you go. You want to know why they have such fat necks? They don't have fat necks, but they do have very powerful muscular necks. Although you might find, there's definitely some, there's definitely some aggression there. We might just get a fight. They might have some subcutaneous fat, but what they do have is dewlaps. Now that helps to protect their neck during vicious fights, as well as from predators. And they're definitely sizing each other up. But it also, in some antelope species like eland, helps with thermoregulation, helps to keep them cool. Interesting, the rules of combat here. That the one is sniffing the base of the other's horns. Or probably actually more likely sniffing a facial gland. And then just like that they turn and walk away. Why? Or they're just moving to a better position so we can see them. Octogirly, what did sort of goaty smell? They smell like goats. Yes, that's right. Or was that must? Liam had the perfect description for them. I find it a sort of leathery goat smell. VM describes, we actually, Kirsten and I were just trying to remember, we thought it might be the slightly off Oros, which is a very sweet, very artificial juice concentrate that we get at all sports matches from ages 4 to about 18. But that was to describe the smell of an elephant in must. No, I think that waterbuck is more a leathery goat smell. It's a very musky scent, like a big billy goat. We saw lots of those in Kenya. Lots of goats, lots of sheep, and lots of shoats. And then we're done. Just like that. Somehow that battle was decided, which is pretty standard, because of course they don't want to injure each other, or injure themselves more likely. They're happy to injure each other. And they'll size each other up and then avoid fight if they can. Right, let's go back and join Tristan as he wanders along through the trees.
We're wandering through the trees, Jamie. We're trying to kind of not only track lions but avoid buffalo, and obviously it's proving to be quite tricky. The wind has gotten up quite a bit and these buffalo have scented us from the wind. It's really kind of blowing in a bad direction, but the lion tracks walk exactly where we've walked and are kind of coming around this herd. So I don't know if they're either trying to just avoid the kind of sort of herd and try and get round and get a better direction from wind point of view, but we really have been trying to kind of move around them. But the tracks of the lions come pretty much straight towards this termite mound, so they were in the block there. We didn't find anything crossing the road yet, but we couldn't really, because these buffalo are quite close to where we are. We are on a termite mound at the moment, just trying to kind of think about where our next move is going to be. But if anybody is, well, Jamie or Brent are very close to Sydney's Dam Triple M boundary, it might be worth just checking there, because those lions seem to be moving just westwards all the time. And so what we can see is that there's a few individuals here, and it seems like maybe a few more are trailing them, and that's maybe the contact calls that were being heard closer to camp might be the ones that are trying to find these guys that are right up ahead towards where these buffalo are. But you can see these buffalo are very alert. They're watching, they're looking, all the heads are raised, so they have a very good idea that we're here. And like I say, unfortunately the wind is just pumping all of a sudden straight at them, so there's not much we can do about it. We just got to sit it out and sit up here and just basically kind of make ourselves not threatening and hope that lions don't rock up, because otherwise it's going to be a pandemonium in this area. But it's an amazing feeling being on foot with buffalo. You kind of feel half like you're going to be trampled to death at any point, and the other half is sheer amazement at kind of being around such large animals and hearing their footsteps as they walk around, as well as smelling them and hearing the oxpeckers. It's a pretty special thing. So, Carol, I mean, they could theoretically try and kind of come around us a little bit and surround you on a termite mound. I mean, they've done it with the big cats. But generally, being obviously that we're quite aware of what's going on, we'll try and get out of the situation long before they surround us. So we'll try and back out of this very quickly if they start to see them coming around and flanking us, because as soon as you let them flank you and they close off your escape routes, you're going to have a major problem. So, you know, we'll try and move off long before that happens. What normally happens, though, with buffalo herds is they will get a bit spooked by the wind. They don't really like us too much, and they'll actually just trot off a little bit, and then they'll kind of all in a straight line move in one direction. Very seldom do you see them kind of all coming at you in a united front and forming around you. You'd have to be really kind of irritating them for that to happen. Luckily, we've got quite a nice sort of mound that we can get up onto, and it's got nice thorn trees all around it, which will make it fairly kind of undesirable area for a buffalo to try and kind of come through. So for now we're perfectly safe, even though they know we're here. Everything is okay. It would just be the lions that would put the proverbial cat amongst the pigeons if they had to show up. That would cause a bit more of a panic. But I can see buffalo kind of moving off to our right hand side, so slowly but surely they're kind of realizing that we're not trying to hunt them or hurt them in any way, and that's when they'll start to walk a little bit and start to move. And hopefully, like I say, move around us rather than towards us. Jacob, very good. If you look at a buffalo, it's got a rather large muzzle area with big nostrils. So it's able to get quite a lot of air through those nostrils and therefore scent very well. So they pick up scent very quickly. You see if lions are in the area, if lions are not in the right place, they pick it up quite quickly and they know that something's amiss. So their sense of smell is very good, as is their eyesight and their hearing. Buffalo, unfortunately, because it's hunted by so many things. Remember, when they're calves, they're also hunted by leopard and hyenas and even sometimes wild dogs. There was a crazy kind of report the other day from Moremi in Botswana of a pack of wild dogs killing 5 buffalo calves in one hunt, which is quite something. Now, so for those of you that kind of think buffalo don't get hunted by wild dogs, it just shows you that it is possible, and there's pretty insane kind of footage and photographs that were on display with that. But so they've got a lot of predators, and therefore their senses need to be very good in order to keep themselves alive. And so sense of smell, like I say, hearing, eyesight, all of them are pretty good. They don't really have kind of dull senses, otherwise they would be just a soft target, and unfortunately their numbers would probably dwindle due to that fact. So they need to kind of always be aware of their environment and therefore have good eyesight and hearing and sense of smell. But you can see slowly but surely heads are starting to kind of drop. It's all the bulls that are left now with their heads up. They're all the ones that are watching us. The females are kind of happily starting to feed now, and the more we sit here and the more we just don't make too much noise and don't move around too much, the more these guys will relax. But we've been spoilt lately. Just thinking back to Taylor's elephants yesterday, I had some ellies on foot the other day. We're starting to get all these incredible sightings on bushwalk, and it's this time of the year that we start to see this as it gets to the driest point and the heat rises, so that sucks all these animals in, and we start to get these crazy kind of encounters on foot. And so we've been super fortunate to have them. It's a special feeling to be on foot with buffalo. Right, now we're going to sit here and we're going to see how to get out of here for now. We might just spend some more time with the buffalo. They're starting to relax, and it's always nice, like I say, to be on foot. But while we do that, Brent apparently is on his way to give us a hand with the lions.
Yeah, we weren't too far away, so I'm now approaching Sydney's. I'm just going very slowly along our northern boundary. Ooh. Don't fly, don't fly, don't fly, don't fly, don't fly. Little canary. Here we go. Here we go, little yellow-eyed canary. So as I said, I'm just going to go very slowly through here. It's a very busy road, lots of delivery vehicles and stuff up and down this road. So it's possible they might have driven over the tracks. A very relaxed canary. Normally they disappear quite quickly. It's still cool enough that the lions might be moving. So, well, as the canary. Chris, well done. Another new bird for your list. Okay. So as I said, I'm just going to creep along here, making sure that those lines haven't popped across. So if I'm not looking back at camera, I apologize, because I'm staring at the ground trying to find a kitty cat. We spend a lot of time staring at the ground. Now I wonder if that lion I heard to the north might have been what's pushed these lions west again, if it is possibly the Nkahuma pride, because if it is one of those Avoca males, they will move away. The one we heard roaring this morning. Teddy, yes, the Avoca with the injured foot is still around. They saw him yesterday and took. So I'm pretty sure he's probably the lion I heard this morning belting it out to the north. Not too far from our northern boundary, I'd be within a kilometer. No sign of tracks yet. That's what I say. That's why we're going slowly. Busy road. Yeah, well, was that? What was that? Where's that now? No. It's an old hyena track in an elephant track. So we're going to keep going very, very slowly. While we do that, let's send you back to Jamie to see what her plans are next.
Well, I think that since Brenty's gone to go and see if he can find the lions... Oh, look, another one. Oh, it flew away. There's another bunting. That was lovely. It looked like a brief view of it. I think it was a golden-breasted bunting, not a cinnamon-breasted bunting, but I could be mistaken on that. I only saw it for a split second. So Brent has gone to go and see if he can follow up on those lions. I'm going to take over from him and see if I can find these leopards. It's very frustrating. Mating leopards should be easy to find. They really should. They make noise every couple of minutes throughout the hour. So we should be able to find them. The problem is they've both gone quiet. It makes me wonder if they didn't kill something and they're busy feeding, distracted from the whole mating process. I also don't want to go too far from home or too fast because I think, due to Tristan's supreme diligence in showing you the leopards yesterday afternoon, he appears to have knocked the steering bar slightly, and I think at some point our wheels are going to face opposite directions. Impala look absolutely calm, as do the birds, starlings. And back again. Here you go, Dobby. And Purchills has decided to cooperate with Dave. So we're stopping, looking and listening a lot this morning. Any opportunity to listen, we'll take it. And these impala look perfectly relaxed. So I don't think that the leopards are around here. I also thought I saw monkeys first thing this morning, and they haven't alarm called once. Ragu, talking about the mating leopards, you want to know if a male leopard, let's carry on as we chat about this, will kill a female if she's not ready to mate. Not because she's not ready to mate. It is possible. Males do kill females. It does happen. And in fact, Tingana did it about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, where he moved into an area, and I think my theory is that he smelt the presence of another male, and he didn't take kindly to it, and he bumped into Shaluva, who was a female who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He responded instinctively, aggressively, and he killed her. Now, that's not because she wasn't ready to mate. It was simply, I think, because she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But they do kill females. It's unusual, though. I mean, a female might not be ready to mate this month, but she will be next month, and it would really be a very poor reproductive tactic to kill a female simply because she wasn't in estrus yet. So no, they won't do it for that reason. They will, however, kill cubs that are not fathered by them in order to bring a female back into estrus, because a female won't mate, or at least won't successfully mate, when she has a cub. And if that leopard is... How's that, Dave? You can see it there. If a leopard has not mated with that female, he will kill her cub. Okay, so we've even got sharp-eyed kudu around here. So, doesn't mean that the leopards aren't here, it just makes it a little bit more unlikely that they are. How nice it is to see kudu. It is, of course, an antelope that we never saw in the Mara, and they're so beautiful. Yes, boy. They've taken the whole sort of... They've got the radar-like ears in the extreme. All antelope have large ears so that they can listen carefully and get the direction of the sound, so that it amplifies the sounds that they're hearing. But the kudu in particular have enormous ears. Big ears, big eyes. tells you a lot about what you need to know about them, and that's that they live in dense vegetation and they have to watch out for predators all the time. Nibbling on what looks like a young Balanites. Chilean, they really are gorgeous indeed. They're probably one of the most attractive antelope. All members of that family, or that antelope tribe, known as the Tragelaphus family or the Traphalagus family, depending upon whether you are Brent or the rest of the world. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen, trying to ask Brent how to spell their genus. I think he even put a V in there at some point. But Nyala, Bushbuck, Kudu, Sitsatunga, Eland as well. These are all really attractive antelope. There's no real ugly antelope. No, that's not true, actually. I mean, there are some antelope that are more beautiful than others. Topi are not beautiful. There are a lot of things. They're striking, perhaps, but they're not beautiful. And neither are wildebeest. Oh, there's a female there as well. Well, we're going that way, so we'll move around. Indeed, Kirsty is absolutely correct. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Not all people think hyena are beautiful. I think they're beautiful. No, they haven't walked along this road. I think hyena are beautiful. Topi think other topi are beautiful, especially their babies. And so do wildebeest. How have I managed to lose her? Oh, there she is. There we go. A female. For our newer viewers, very quick, very simple. Female kudu do not have horns. Males do. Not the case with every antelope. Right. Tristan apparently has relinquished his title as the leopard whisperer of Djuma. He is now the buffalo whisperer.
Well, at the moment we're actually looking at ants, to be honest, and I'm not sure I'm ready to relinquish that title just yet. I would like to be looking for leopards, but obviously with the lions and the buffalo we kind of got a bit sidetracked as well. But it's still been an epic morning, spending time with the buff. But what we've been sitting here doing is, while we've been on this mound, kind of just watching what goes on with these buffalo and see how they kind of move, we notice that there's a dead tree basically that's kind of breaking apart, and what's happening is that there's ants that have colonized completely an area around it. And the reason why they're around it is because if you have a look inside here, so if you come into this area, Seb, and go quite wide, you'll notice that there's a lot of kind of soil that's been deposited in here, and that's all from termites. So pretty much what's happened is termites have gotten into this because it's been kind of ring-barked and has fallen over. That's allowed an easy way for termites to get in, and they're starting to eat basically the inner core of this particular tree. And what's happening now is that the ants are actually going to be preying on the termites themselves. So these ants come along and they notice that there's termites inside here, and so what they do is they then go in and out trying to kind of find those termites and try and hunt them down and take them out, which is pretty interesting. Ants are ferocious creatures when they want to be. They're pretty epic things. I saw a crazy video the other day from one of the viewers about ants carrying away a millipede and using each other as almost like a rope to be able to tie it around and kind of drag it along. It really was quite something to see. Now, these guys are all quite busy. They're moving up and down all over the show and just kind of looking about, and almost looks like they're foraging more than anything else. But it's amazing that when you actually take a closer look at a dead tree, you realize that it's an entire ecosystem on its own. You know, often you'll drive past a dead tree and you'll be thinking to yourself, well, it's a shame that the elephants broke that, or the elephants ring-barked it, and, you know, not much is going to go on there anymore. But actually, you can see it really is quite busy. The other cool thing that you can see in this is that if you have a look on this edge over here, you'll notice that there's dots and striations that go through the wood. Now that will all be from what's called a wood boring beetle, and basically what happens is they bore into it, and these are just kind of some of the holes where the tree broke, that you can actually see the striation of how they kind of went in and the little holes that they've then developed. After it's been broken, then is when you start to see the straight sort of, well, not straight, but just perfectly round kind of circles that are dotted throughout. But it's quite cool to see like a cross section of where boring beetles have been at work, and pretty amazing the thickness of this kind of wood to start with, and then the inner sort of part where the termites have eaten, and how strong those termites must be to be able to work at this, to be able to kind of break this down and get it eaten and get it kind of destroyed to the point that we see it now. Now, while I've been talking to you, the buffalo are actually right behind us. You can see them straight through there. I don't know if Sebke has got a shot on them at the moment. Seb's done quite well, but they're getting a little bit closer now. They've kind of relaxed right down now that we're just sitting very quietly on this mound. So our buffalo have also kind of relaxed, and we're just getting the most epic views of this herd of buffalo kind of moving around. A lot of people would be very nervous probably to be on foot with a herd like this, but funny enough, herds of buffalo actually aren't as bad as the big bulls. The big bulls are the ones that you've got to be a little careful about on their own. They tend to be a lot more grumpy than a herd like this. A herd of this size knows its power, knows that it can be pretty good at defending itself, and so often you'll find that these guys are actually a little bit more kind of tolerant of your presence and a little bit more tolerant of what goes on than, say, the big bulls. But very cool. Like I say, I'm having a fun morning just sitting with these guys. Jason, yes, it's my favorite thing. I have it on my cereal every day. I actually, funny enough, that's why we're sitting here for so long. Seb and I are waiting for one of the females to come past, and then we just quickly jump on its back, and you kind of ride it around for a little while, and then you just anchor it down, and then one of you has to kind of keep the tail anchored, and then the other one quickly milks it to get the fresh milk for our breakfast every morning. So on our cereal, it's a firm favorite of mine. I really do enjoy. It also does make a good cheese, you're right. Kirsty, mozzarella, buffalo mozzarella. Of course, that's not actually really buffalo mozzarella. Don't think that it comes from Cape Buffalo. It doesn't. But yes, they are. The milk is delicious. You know, you can drink it by the glass. You can make milkshakes with it. You can do really what you want. It's a very exactly a buffalo milkshake. Kirsty, is the best kind of milkshake. It's really it's a very versatile kind of milk. There's lots and lots of products you can get out of it. And like I say, out here in the bush, we go crazy for it. And so sometimes we'll risk life and limb to be able to go after that milk and try and actually kind of get it from. No, it's not cheap, you're right. And it's normally because the person that goes to get it invariably gets some kind of serious bodily injury or even death, and so, you know, there's a premium when it comes to that. Sacrificing people to get the milk does cost a little bit of extra money, but it's worth it. It really is tasty stuff, very creamy, perfect texture. So it's not a milk you would want to miss out on. And so if you ever see Cape Buffalo milk, be sure to grab some. We should maybe like a milk bar, but for buffalo milk. That would be quite fun. We could have, we could just have a sort of stall in the bush where buffalo roam about, and then it's part of the challenge to make your milkshake is to go milk your own buffalo and see how it works. And you can even get a free T-shirt if you can milk the buffalo and make your own milkshake. We'll give you a free T-shirt for your bravery. What do you think, Kirst? Is that a good business idea, or do you think we're going to not have enough customers? Yes, Kirst likes it too. Yes, Kev, a short straw for the buffalo milk, indeed. I think that's a paper one, not plastic. Remember, don't drink out of plastic straws. Single-use plastic is not good. There's a big drive on that at the moment, so we will be paper straws, or maybe bamboo straws if you want to be a bit. Actually, you know what we could use, Kirsty? Since we're talking about buffaloes, that we could actually, the tip of a buffalo's horn is a sheath, and it kind of goes over the bone. And so what you could do is get that sheath, and then you could just kind of sand it down nicely, clean it out very carefully, disinfect it, and then you could have a buffalo horn straw for your buffalo milkshake. I think that's a fantastic idea. I know we give trademark, yes, there we go. She's saying I must quickly say trademark, otherwise our business ideas are going to be taken by our competition. There's a bit of competition out there in this particular area because of how tasty the buffalo milk is and how sought after it is. There's lots of people that are trying to capitalize at the moment, but we are the leaders in this field, and so we'll have to kind of protect our ideas as best as possible. But in all honesty, no, I've never tried Cape Buffalo milk. I have no idea what it tastes like. So, yes, you're welcome to go and milk it yourself. I honestly don't think anyone is even brave enough to go and try and milk a buffalo, particularly because a buffalo that is probably got milk has got a calf fairly close by, and if you would like to get close to a buffalo with a calf, well, be my guest. It should be an entertaining ride that you'll be taken on. You can't promise that you will not come out of it looking like a little bag with no bones left, but you're welcome to try it any time that you want. But no, you wouldn't really want to get close to these guys and milk them. Of course, the buffalo are completely impervious to all of this conversation. They don't really mind. It's because all boys here, they're not really concerned about the talk of being milked. As boys, they're not going to have to worry too much about that. They'll have to just look on as their females kind of give off the milk that we need in order to make our milkshakes successful. Right, on that note, let's send you across to Jamie, who apparently is now considering the idea of whether or not hyena milk should be included in our milkshake bar.
I wasn't considering the idea of hyena milk and whether or not it should be included, but now I have, and I'm decidedly all the better for that thought first thing in the morning. Thank you for that. So yes, on the subject of milk, we'll go with hyena milk, which of course is the most most nutrient-rich milk. I don't know why that came out all as one word. The most nutrient-rich milk of any mammal out here. Right up there with elephants. I'm not sure what I'd rather milk more, an elephant or a hyena. Oh, what a horrible thought. Kirsty says it would make good ice cream. Oh. Darby, are we milking this subject a little bit too much? Possibly. Possibly. I mean, that's right up there with the odd milk that was sold in Covent Garden a few years ago. Or the ice cream that was made from it. Ugh. Okay, so we've got some elephants here who are definitely not going to allow us to milk them, particularly not that big female over there. I think she would probably flatten you as soon as you arrived with your pail first thing in the morning. They must know where these leopards are. I've come back to take over from Brent in the vain hope that somehow I'll get lucky and we'll hear them mating. It's a beautiful scene though. And these ellies wandering across. This particular drainage line is very close to where Hosanna was born. And I think Tlalamba actually. I think Tundi used a very similar den site, if I'm not mistaken. That I know only from the stories I was told. There's more ellies coming across soon, so we'll get to see them in a little bit. Ah, Nancy, while we look at elephants, although they are making our lives difficult for now, but they're going to move out into the open. Never fear, they're coming slowly across in this direction. Nancy's wondering about elephants' ears and whether or not an elephant could bleed to death if its ear were torn. Probably not, no. I mean, no. Most likely not, actually. I was trying to think if maybe it was torn right at the base, which sounds excruciatingly painful. But remember that you are absolutely correct, and I can see where your thought processes come from. Because elephants use their ears as a cooling system. So that entire ear is very thin but packed full of blood vessels. And it's got a massive capillary network that essentially when the elephant is too hot, it opens up, those vessels dilate, and the blood flows through to where the skin of the ear is nice and thin. So then with wind blowing over the top of it and combined with the flapping motion, that's wrong, girl, you're just leaning on that tree. Why have you stopped chewing? Maybe she just wants to know about her ear. That is the way in which they cool down. I know why she stopped. I could actually hear a rumble quite far away of another elephant talking to her. But it's capillaries. Capillaries are quite thin, And I imagine that the elephant, if it did tear an ear, and you do see them with torn ears often, if it were to tear an ear, the blood would clot before it bled to death. There's no major arteries running through the ear. So no, they wouldn't bleed to death. Perhaps, maybe, if it were torn right at the base. But I don't think so. Oh, Kirsty says that we have a question coming through from somebody called your mom. Now, I immediately, because my mom loves elephants, she really does, I immediately assumed that it was in fact from my mother, who might have been watching and might have wanted to send her a question. So, your mom, thank you for that moment of confusion. I'm trying to find a nicer view. There's only really a view of a bottom at the moment. You want to know if it's true that elephants react emotionally to humans. It's impossible for us to really know the true extent or the full extent that animals feel something, that they feel emotions. I believe that they do feel emotion, but I don't know that I could necessarily determine the full extent. Wild elephants, with humans driving around them, there is no specific connection to any one individual unless they have a reason for it. Perhaps they've been in a boma or a fenced-off area and that person interacted with them on a daily basis. But a wild elephant without any of that backstory will have no emotional connection to humans whatsoever. What they can do is they can understand tone. So speaking in a high-pitched, overly excited or loud voice will upset them. Speaking softly and calmly will keep them relaxed. They're animals that communicate with both visual communication and vocally. So they recognize angry sounds, they recognize calm sounds, just in the way that we do when it comes to them. So they can respond to your tone, and if they do something naughty and you raise your voice at them slightly, they will respond to that. Preferably in the way in which you want them to, which is to move back away from you slightly. But I think that they will have domestic, that's the wrong word, elephants that have been taken out of the wild and have lots of contact with humans. Yes, I believe that they'll have an emotional connection to a human being, just in the same way a dog might prefer its owner to anyone else. That is not, of course, to say that keeping elephants habituated for the purposes of riding or working or any sort of reason or in a circus is right, but they would have an emotional connection to people. That, of course, is also dangerous because it's a very big animal, and even if at its most gentle, it could still cause serious injury. Still trying to re-coordinate my brain after thinking my mom had sent through a question. Right, let's go and join Tristan, who apparently is looking at death from above.
I am looking at death from above as vultures circle the morning sky and morning thermals in order to go and find death, in order to feed off it. Except that in that group of whiteback vultures is a very confused bird that is a Wahlberg's eagle that is for some reason hanging out with the vultures and decided that it is going to be part of the vulture club today. Wahlberg's eagle, you do not eat carrion. What are you doing? Why hasn't it? It didn't answer. I asked, but it didn't answer at all. Unfortunately, though, they are drifting away a little bit. Now, while we were kind of walking along, Seb is still doing some incredible work there to keep them on camera. Well done, Seb. It's not easy at all. So while we were kind of walking around, we managed to find Betty the buffalo. And Betty the buffalo, she used to be one of our favorite milking cows and milking females, and she unfortunately passed away. But why we picked her up and decided to show you what she looks like and why she kind of has this interesting sort of look to her is because as we were going along, I thought to myself, well, given that this is not your usual buffalo skull, I wanted to actually feel how heavy it is in relation to a buffalo skull that's got a huge set of horns. And I can promise you right now that this thing is incredibly light. Granted, it's got no, obviously, meat on it or brain material or anything like that in it, but because it doesn't have these sets of horns, it's amazing actually how much lighter the skull is. And it gives you an idea of just kind of how heavy a male's set of horns must be, because, you know, obviously we're kind of feeling this and it feels pretty sort of light for its bulk and its size, but it really is incredible how much lighter it is than other horns that I've picked, or skulls that I've picked up that have horns. The thing is, though, is that this animal did have horns at one point. If you have a look here along this edging all the way around the side here, you will notice that there has actually been a break, and so there's teeth marks that have come in. So this is from probably something like a hyena that's come in and just used the side of its jaw just to clamp down and essentially break the skull apart and just take these little bits of horns off. The other side looks a little bit more kind of worn, and so I would imagine this side was an old break that took place, and so the horn itself must have broken off while this animal was probably still alive, because this is all kind of remodeled and I don't know what the word would be. It would be sort of smoothed out is probably the best word for it. There's been a few sort of chipping kind of taking place as it's probably been chewed on, but this is more along the lines of what you would have seen when it was a kind of old break that was on the animal when it was still alive, whereas this one over here you can see has been chewed up fairly recently and been broken up and broken apart. But it doesn't look like a buffalo at all. If I had to show you that skull, you wouldn't think buffalo, you would think it is. Exactly. I think it is a good Halloween mask too, Kirsty. Was it Lewis you said that says good Halloween mask? There we go. Yes, Lewis, I also agree. It's almost like, I don't know if any of you have seen that comic, The Punisher. So if I put it on my chest, I have to have a black shirt, and then I could have, but I would need to get little bits of paint coming down, and then it could be the Buffalo Punisher done. But Halloween outfit, nailed it, on point. But there we go. But a really kind of interesting looking skull. The other thing that's interesting about it is how it's been completely kind of opened up around the nasal cavity. You know, normally when we find the skulls, they kind of have this bridging coming across, and you can see that it's been chewed a little bit on the front. But this has really been completely destroyed. They've eaten the whole top of the sort of kind of the roof of the mouth. So the Jacobson organ would have sat in this sort of area here, and then you can actually see where there's big veins that would have gone in towards the brain. There's a kind of place where one would have gone in and through and into the actual brain casing itself. The other thing that's really interesting is this. If you had to zoom in on this, and I hadn't shown you it was a buffalo, you would have thought that it might have been cracked sort of salt pan in a desert area. Yep. But this is, over time, weathering is taking place, and this whole skull is actually cracking apart and breaking because of weathering and slow expansion and contraction during cold and hot periods, which is pretty incredible as well. So a pretty interesting little... Blackies, you want to see the teeth? Sure, no problem. I can show you the teeth. Very nice teeth, actually. This is a toothy grin that you would want in a buffalo. The male buffalo finds this very, very, very... Yes, this is something that a male buffalo wants. When he sees a female flashy or toothy grin, he just can't help himself. Those beautiful kind of dirty teeth are what buffalo really like. Anyway, basically what you can see is that the teeth are all pretty kind of uniform. There's not too much change in the sort of shape of the tooth as you go through, but what is evidently noticeable is everyone always talks about herbivores having flat teeth. They don't have flat teeth. You can see that they're actually very sharp and got a lot of ridges in them, and so that is vitally important for a particular ruminant to be able to cut up that grass into tiny, tiny, fine little sections in order to be able to digest and to absorb as much nutrients as they have. So most of your herbivorous animals actually have quite nasty teeth, and if you had to put your finger in here and get bitten on, I mean, this will take your finger off. It is incredibly sharp. You'll be surprised actually how sharp a lot of these teeth are. It's of course missing its front teeth, which are the teeth that will often kind of cut blades of grass when they are feeding. These are the teeth is when they're sitting and ruminating and just kind of chewing and just kind of absorbing all those nutrients and processing the cud. The other thing I was talking about earlier was the organ of Jacobson, and we often talk about the pits in the roof of the mouth. So there you can actually see them. Those are the two pits that allow the scent to come in and then into the organ, which will be, if I flip it over, straight on the other side there, and then you can see they come up through that area over there. So that's where the organ of Jacobson would have sat, and that's where they would have been able to process that smell and be able to work out exactly what's going on, which is very, very cool. It's not something we get to see that often. Good. there we go. That's my skull talk over. So we're going to leave that right there and let it sit, and I'll come collect it for Halloween. And while we kind of carry on, let's send you across to Brent, who's looking at something that has been running on the ground.
Well, it ran away. It was a slender mongoose. It disappeared, but we just came to have a quick look around Treehouse Dam, see if maybe Hasano wasn't lurking. But we do have a herd of impala slowly, carefully edging their way towards the water. Now, of course, they know they're vulnerable at this time of the year around water, because they are very much not spoiled for choice about where they can drink. So you can see slowly approaching the water, stopping, watching, listening. Pretty is wondering, do different antelope eat different foods? Yes. You have your browsers and your grazers. Your grazers eat grass. Your browsers eat leaves from bushes and trees. And then you have mixed feeders. Impala are mixed feeders. They will both browse and graze. Quite nice to just sit quietly and watch them approach and see how cautious they are, especially the wind's picking up a little bit, which would aid a predator if there was one lurking. One female seems to be a lot more thirsty than the others. Looks like they are going to come drink. Now, the wonderful thing about Treehouse Waterhole is that even though it becomes this tiny little green cesspool, even if it dries out more than this, there's actually a natural seep line running through there, and there will always be a tiny bit of water, so it's always providing water to lots of different animals. Black Keys would like to know, do they choose one to go up ahead? I think it's the most thirsty one that goes. And you'll see there are two males, and possibly even a third, three males. Oh, we see a bit jumpy around the water's edge. Now, during the rut, which is in March, a group of females will only be seen with one male, while the other males will try steal them from him. But when there's no competition for mating, the males and females will happily stay in the same herd without fighting. Very peaceful scene here at Treehouse Waterhole. No sign of any kitty cats. But as the impala quench their thirst, they don't need too much water to survive. Jamie's got an animal that can drink up to 100 gallons a day. 100 litres, sorry.
For those of you for whom that means very little, you can think of it as one adult elephant drinking an entire bathtub full of water or during its day. And of course, that makes sense, especially now. It's such a pity for them that the way things go, it's the dry season, so they're eating lots of dry food, and they need quite a lot of water to keep their digestive process moving. And of course, water is quite hard to come by. So we've moved around to the area that the elephants were heading into. Hopefully the rest of the herd comes out into the open. At the moment we can only see this little chap who is making the best of whatever he can pluck out of the ground. It occurs to me I've got a very juicy tuber sitting on the bonnet of my car, or the hood of my car. I know it often confuses people when we call it a bonnet. That's the bonnet, also known as the hood. And the African potato is sitting there. I'm hoping that it doesn't encourage an elephant to come and try and take it off the bonnet. That would be very poor form indeed. It would mean that Brent loses out on his Christmas present. He'll be so sad. He'll be devastated. It's been a bizarre drive. We've gone through some strange topics of conversation. Let me try go forward a little bit. Fried African potatoes. Oh, hold on, he's going to come out in front of us. Hello, my boy. Come say hello. Come say hello. Or are you too busy doing the business of eating? Oh, I can't wait to have a magical, playful baby elephant sighting here. I know we've spoken about it quite a lot, but there really is a difference in the way that we experience elephant sightings here and in the Mara. Is your armpit itchy? Or does it just smell nice? Did that just smell nice? Okay. There's the rest of the herd over there. Lulu Leopard, I completely misheard that at first, and I thought that your name was Zulu Leopard, which would have been an equally appropriate name, although probably not in this area. Now, let me see if I can get another view before we go into answering this question. You see its tail there, Dave? Okay. Because Lulu Leopard's question is about the hair on the end of an elephant's tail, and they want to know, does it serve a purpose? It's a brilliant fly swatter, is essentially its main purpose. It also can, if there's a tick or something climbing up the leg of the elephant, it can sweep away the ticks before they manage to embed themselves. Once the tick has managed to bite into the skin, then that's it. The tail won't be able to dislodge it, and the elephant probably won't be able to get rid of it unless it scrapes it on the bark of a tree and has itself a jolly good mud wallow and then a scratch afterwards. So it does serve a purpose. It's basically one giant fly swatter. And if you've ever had the opportunity to feel elephant hair, which I presume you haven't, but I could be mistaken about that, it's like wire, basically. It is like slightly flexible wire. So it really is very thick, very coarse. Now, the tail of an elephant is important beyond being used as a giant fly swatter. It is one of the most important indicators of their moods. Scott is struggling. Dave, if we make it home without breaking down, it's going to be severely fortunate, let's put it that way. Hello, Ellies. Here we go. So an elephant's tail is a fantastic indicator of their moods. So when it is slowly moving from side to side, like that, swishing backwards and forwards. There, you can see it's using it as a swatter, getting something that was itchy on its skin. When it's doing that with its tail, it means that the elephant is relaxed and comfortable. The same applies to the flapping ears. So this elephant is just cooling itself down slightly. People tend to, if they're inexperienced with elephant behavior, they tend to think that that's a sign of aggression. It's not. If an elephant is angry and aggressive, its tail goes out stiff at 90 degrees to its body, and it holds its ears open. It doesn't flap its ears, it holds its ears open. Might shake its head to cause its ears to flap on the side of its body. But gentle flapping like that is just simply cooling down as the temperatures heat up. I think I might have misheard the name. I don't know if it was Star or Sa wanted to know if the elephant hair feels like... What was my letter? Sa wants to know if elephant hair feels a bit like a pig hair. Yes, to a point, but even thicker. So elephants have very bristly hair. Elephant hair feels like that, but it's really, really thick. Opportunities to closely examine elephant hair is rare. It's not easy to find. It doesn't fall out often. It does fall out, just in the same way we shed hair or eyelashes or eyebrows. The hair does fall out, but it's hard to find. Whereas something like a wildebeest, if you find yourself the territorial patch of a male wildebeest, you're almost guaranteed to be able to find some of its hair there. It doesn't quite work the same way with elephants. Of course, remember that if you're buying trinkets, if you are buying elephant hair products, just think very carefully about where it's come from. Robert, you want to know if some nice shampoo might help with the coarseness of elephant hair? I think it might require something more than that. I mean, maybe some extra strength softener. Maybe one of those leave-in conditioner treatments, perhaps. And even then, I think you'll probably find that it will retain its texture. You can offer a milkshake bar elephant hair salon. This is continuing to go in a strange direction. It's not just their tails. Kirsty thinks I'm being ridiculous. Obviously, you can see now with the elephant being slightly backlit, it's not just the tail that is covered in hair. Elephants are actually hairy animals. It's just they're not as furry as something like a leopard or an antelope, but their entire body is covered in hair except for the soles of their feet. It's just very sparse. It's slightly thicker around the ears, around the mouth. There you can see this little one's growing quite the beard. Also very, very bristly. I almost want to go touch it now that I've pointed it out. To run your hand over an elephant's skin is a lesson in textures. There you go. She's perfect. See how beautifully coordinated that motion was? And you can see the notch that she's worn in that right tusk. Doing that exact thing. Using it to break branches. And it wears down over time. And you'll see it more on one tusk than the other. Most elephants tend to favor one tusk over the other. So in this case, she uses her right tusk to break branches more often than she uses her left. Just essentially like being right and left-handed. Watch this youngster. Hasn't got the whole process yet because his tusks are too small. So he actually can't, or she, I haven't looked to see if it's a male or a female, can't actually use those little tusks yet, not properly. So it has to settle for putting the entire branch in its mouth and then just chewing until it manages to break it off. Chewing and pulling. Often the youngsters will move behind the adults and strip away the bits of bark that are left behind. It's a process that takes a little bit of coordination. and that has to be learnt over time. It helps when you have tusks to do it, though. This youngster still hasn't got there yet. I keep thinking I'm hearing mating leopards, and it's not, it's my stomach. It's my stomach telling me I've been awake for long enough now that it wants breakfast. It really is making a racket. I apologize if you can hear that. Yes, thanks, Kirst. I do indeed have African potato. I'm not terribly keen on that. Thank you, though. I appreciate the thought. I couldn't eat that, though. It's very bad form to give someone a present that is half eaten. It's like giving them a box of chocolates and taking half of them. That would be astonishingly rude. I can actually hear the squeak of the sound of the tusks on the bark. I'm scared to draw attention to noise or to stop talking for too long, just in case my stomach decides to participate in this whole process. Very beautiful. I was hoping while we sat here quietly we might have a chance to hear the leopards. We haven't had any luck, so let's go, and I quote Kirsty directly here, to Tracky Tristan to see where he's treading.
Well, treading very softly through the long grass on the western side of Djuma at the moment. We're just kind of bumbling about now, just trying to see what else we can kind of find. So far, though, it's a little bit quiet on this western side. We've seen a few lion tracks crossing here and there, but obviously they will head out of the property, so not really much kind of happening. And it seems awfully quiet from the elephant front this morning, which worries me. I feel like the wind that we've got this morning it's definitely a different wind than what we've been having. It's blowing from a different direction. It's coming now from the southeast a little bit more, and that generally means that we're going to probably, in all likelihood, to get a cold front. And Seb was telling me that the weather forecast says that tomorrow is going to be a delightful 19 degrees after today's lovely 35 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow will be 19, so it's a major drop in temperature, and apparently it's going to rain. Ooh, that's interesting. I wonder how much rain we'll get. Maybe we'll get a little bit, maybe we'll get a lot. Seb said to me that it said 4 millimeters, which, yes, no, that's not even going to settle the dust. Only in the night, Kirsty. Well, that's delightful, because last week when we had rain, it was only on game drive, and it was horrendous. It was cold and rainy and was not very nice at all. It seems to be a weekend thing at the moment, is that we get this horrible kind of windy, rainy weather that is making life, well, not very pleasant on a Friday. Fridays are supposed to be, exactly, we're supposed to just stay in bed in weather like that, but, you know, especially on a Friday, Fridays are supposed to be happy days, not days of rain and cold and miserableness. But if it rains at night, I'm super happy with that. I like the rain at night. I'm not a huge fan on game drive, as you all know, but on night time is always quite pleasant, to be honest. So hopefully we'll get a bit of rain during the night. We know we need it very badly at this stage. It's so dry that a bit of rain certainly will do some wonders to try and get the bush to recover a little bit, but 4 millimeters of rain is hardly going to do anything. We're going to need about 20 to 30 to really kickstart everything and get the grasses to start growing and leaves to start sprouting and, you know, general kind of filling up of the dams to begin. The problem with that is that our tracking will go to the dogs, so to speak. It will not be easy to track anymore, and that will make life, well, harder, and that means we won't see as many things, which I don't really like. So then that's the only good side of the dry season, is that tracking animals becomes a little easier than it is in the wet season. Otherwise, I must be honest, I prefer the wet season. I like warmer temperatures. I also like the fact that things are green, we get a lot more birds, a lot more kind of signs of animal life, insect life, and bushwalks certainly become far more interesting in terms of the amount of things you can look at. At the moment, things are a little bit kind of dry and dusty. Now, just kind of having a look here, seems as though there's been a bit of excavating that's been taking place, and I'm pretty sure I know what it's from. So what you've got here is quite a bit of disturbance on a little pathway, and normally this would be something that would be quite tricky to kind of establish what it is. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that I'm pretty sure, sorry, Seb, my shadow's in there, I know that, but I'm pretty sure. Interesting. I was hoping that we would find it, but what it actually is from a steenbok that's been scraping, and normally they defecate and then cover it up. But if you have a look over here, Seb, so there is the little track for the steenbok over there, and what it did is it scraped all of this out, and I'm pretty sure it was going to go to the toilet in amongst this track. Sorry, my shadow is completely ruining this, but I was scraping it open like this to try and see if I could get some of the little balls of poo out, but it seems as though it didn't defecate. Maybe it just urinated in this particular area. Now actually, funny enough, from these little sort of scraping markings like this, you can tell male and female apart, so you would be able to tell if this was a boy or a girl, and that would be the way that the scrape is actually taken place. If you just that runs in a sort of V shape like that, so if they're scraping in an almost V, then you are looking at a female, whereas the males, they scrape in a straight line like that. So that's kind of how you can tell the difference between the two of them. But definitely a little steenbok that scraped here, just didn't go to the toilet like I'd hoped. What's that? It's just a piece of snail shell, so some little snail shell that probably got trodden on by ellies. There were lots of ellies here the other day, and it looks like it's been smashed, but it wasn't a snail that was alive. The snail's been dead for quite some time. Alright, well, we're going to carry on, see what other wonderful things there are out here. In the meantime, let's send you across to Brent Leo Smith.
Well, I realized I forgot to tell you guys something quite important last segment, is that we went to help Tristan with those lion tracks, and we found them where they crossed north into Buffelshoek near Sydney's Waterhole. So I've decided, after doing a big loop, went down to check the southwestern areas, see if Hukamuri or Shadulu might have come in. Alas, no leopard tracks coming in. So I've made my way back, oh hello Ellies, towards camp. I'm pretty sure this could be the same herd we were with earlier. No, it's not. But they're not too far away from the dam. Hi guys. Oh, shake your head, shake your head. Yes, you're very scary. Hello, little girl. So once females get of a certain age, they become quite difficult to age, but I'd say she's probably around 20. But as I was saying, the main reason I've actually come back into this area is to see if, after all the pandemonium of last night with the lions and buffalo around Gallagher Pan, that Hasana might have made his way back. Always wonderful to spend time with Ellies. A swishing tail means it's very, very relaxed in our presence. Not perturbed at all. Oh, Craig, look what the elephant's disturbed. You see it? Oh, let me go forward a little bit. Ah, it's running away. Let's try go back maybe. He spotted something. Oh, now it's hopping that back the other way. That was disturbed by that elephant. There it is. Hello, little scrub hare. Ellie disturbed the scrub hare, and it looks like it's running away. They're all running away from the elephants. There comes the elephant again. Shame, scrub hares. Ellie's just scooting the scrub hares along. Now, for those of you who watch the dam cam, keep an eye on these Ellies. Let me know if they get there. I'm going to go look at Gallagher Pan now, see if Hassan is around. But they are slowly moving down towards Vuyatela. So hopefully, if they don't go there during drive, they'll be there for those of you who watch the dam cam after drive. Okay, it seems like Jamie's peering into the depths of some creature's home.
I don't know so much if it was its home as it was a bolt hole as we drove past. And I'm hoping if we sit here nice and quietly, it might just stick its head out again. It did a moment earlier. It's a slender mongoose. And as we drove past, it dove for cover straight down into this old termite mound. No idea if that'll work or not. Dave and I have been moving in slow motion to try not to make too much noise or scare it away. Come on. Problem here is that it probably has another exit somewhere around here. Come on, you can do it. It just stuck its head out. It looked so cute. Then it saw us and promptly dove back in terror. I'm not sure we're going to be able to coax it out, but you never know. Shouldn't ruin my mongoose contact calls with laughter. Kirsta suggested that perhaps we wait here for the next 24 minutes. Oof, I don't know if my attention span will manage that. Come on, little mongoose. Slender mongoose are probably one of the most nervous of the mongoose species. They're solitary. They don't particularly like being seen. There's banded mongoose in this area as well, and we've never managed to put them on camera properly. Now, apparently you were watching one on the dam camera earlier. It was such a good view that Kirsten even told me about it about an hour ago. Is that a spider web blowing there? It's not the mongoose, is it? I can't see properly.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. It's a spider. Come on, for us? I think we're done. I think it was a gamble. It was definitely a gamble. I don't think it's going to come back out again, especially not with me chattering away. I'm sorry, Kirst. Kirst says she's not mad, just disappointed. That's the worst. It's the worst when you disappoint your director. So sad. I'll try be better. I'll find you another slender mongoose. Kirst says it's fine, she's used to it. Oh, she's back from leave. You sure you've had enough holiday there, Kirst? Fair enough. I don't know if we misheard where those leopards were. Not misheard, but just got the wrong direction. I'm willing to admit that I'm out of practice when it comes to listening to things in the low veld. I don't know if Brent will be willing to concede the same, but I haven't seen one track. Not one track. It just doesn't seem possible that they were around here and didn't once step onto the road. Look, I mean, it's possible we missed them. But mating leopards, it seems so unlikely that somehow we haven't heard them. And I know we heard them this morning. It's making me wonder if perhaps they weren't a bit closer to home and we missed that somehow. Oh, this car. Come on, car. We've got 20 minutes left, okay? We just have to get home. Michael, I'm on the wrong side of Djuma now, and I can't drive very fast in this car. Otherwise, we will have wheels in the opposite direction. No, Michael wants to know, what about checking the hyena den? That buffalo herd hasn't moved much away from it. I don't think they're going to come back there, but I will go there this afternoon. Depending on what happens, of course. I'm not going to make any promises I can't keep, but I'll aim to get back there this afternoon as we go into the evening part of the safari. That's my plan anyway. I don't think I can get from where we are now to Aubrey's Road without smashing the car before the end of drive. Sorry, but we'll check on them this afternoon. I've been this morning and there's still no tracks. Oh, okay, we're gonna come up out of this. Let's hand you over to Brent, trying his luck.
Well, we've tried our luck at Galago Pan, and there's a kudu, and you can see why they're often called the grey ghost, because we were hoping it might come down for a drink, but we've been spoilt, because while we're waiting for the kudu, a lone young Ellie bull is sauntering down towards Galago Pan. Hi, big boy. So even, look at that, there's the water walk. There's the walk we all love, the water walk. Oh yes, there's water. I'm excited. I'm thirsty. Yay. Yay. Hi, big boy. Mid-20s probably, this guy. Oh, look at him, he's getting his trunk twirling with excitement. Now, you can see this is a man-made waterhole and it's being pumped. And the elephants in particular will drink absolutely putrid green water. But if there is fresh water coming out of a pipe like that one is at the moment, you can see he'll try to block it. He'll try only take water from that very spot. If I keep quiet, you can actually hear him sucking it up. Awesome. Oh, he's very thirsty. Didn't even spill that time. You can hear him. This is why the dry season is one of my favorite times of the year, because there's just so much action around the different watering points. Oh, he's sniffing dung. Getting some information from the other herds that have been here. So he wasn't even that thirsty by the looks of things. Looks like he was more looking for some company and giving a good sniff of the other elephants that have been here overnight. And from the way he's moving, he's sniffing their scent and he's now on their track. Let me get And that other herd we saw a little bit earlier is not too far off. Hey, big boy. Sniffy, sniffy, sniffy. There's a big elephant path that runs from Galago Pan through into the river system. And it looks like he's going to join onto that big Ellie path. Safari Grandma is wondering, why do elephants pick up a foot and swing it? Well, I suppose, why do human beings pick up a foot and swing it? They seem to do it more when they're concentrating on something or thinking about something. I suppose the human equivalent is sort of scratching your ear or putting your hand on your head. But now the kudus are still slowly moving their way. They're not in a rush like the Ellie was to get down here, but I think he was rushing for company rather than rushing for water. Although he seemed to still get that water walk going quite nicely. Now you can see why Hassan has been frequenting these areas. Kudu, Nyala, Duiker, Stenbok to a lesser degree, Impala, Bushbuck, all coming down to the water frequently at this time of the year. So as a predator, to be able to just sort of hang around and wait for your meals to come to you is a lot easier than having to head out and find them. I don't think these kudus are going to drink just yet. I think they are more interested in feeding. Oh, maybe the male will come down, the young male. Here he comes. Oh, such elegant antelope, kudus. Got a feeling the dam cam is going to be busy today as well. Today, it's already hot. I'd say it's probably already close on 30 degrees Celsius. And it's not even 9 o'clock in the morning. Romit is wondering, which antelope skull do I think is the heaviest? It would probably definitely be the Lord Derby's eland, or maybe Bongo, but I think Lord Derby's eland will be the heaviest. He's thinking about drinking. Now we're going to wait patiently for the rest of the kudu herd to make their way. It doesn't look like he's too ready to drink yet after waltzing all the way down. But it sounds like Tristan's found another creature on foot.
We have indeed. We've managed to find some ellies that are feeding fairly close by. I would imagine these might be ellies that Brent might have had a bit earlier, because we're actually not that far from Gallagher Pan, and the reason why we're not far from here is because we found tracks of lions kind of coming in, and we just wanted to confirm that it wasn't exactly the same lions that we had been tracking all morning, because the tracks looked really fresh and very crisp, and so we thought maybe that was the contact calls that might have been being heard from the sort of dam cameras, that there might have been other lions around kind of trying to find each other. So we just thought we'd kind of track those through, but they come basically to where we were. Now it's a small breeding herd that I can see at the moment. There's a few kind of on this side. I can't see too many further forward of that. The problem that we have is where they are in relation to us is a bit tricky, because this wind is kind of gusting almost towards where they are, so it would require a rather large loop to get around them to actually kind of get into the right side of the wind, and it's why we haven't pushed too much closer. We're kind of standing quite far off at the moment, just because the ellies, if we do go much closer, most definitely will pick us up. There's these ones here, and then there's one just off to my kind of, I would say, sort of 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and that's the one that I'm worried about. The one straight ahead of me is not the problem. That animal is not going to be difficult to see. I mean, we know where it is, but it's the one that's kind of coming across us like this, because our wind eventually is going to hit it quite strongly, and we're going to have a bit of a sort of issue with it. I can't see it. Can you see it, Sam? No. Let's just try and see. I want to just check where exactly it is in relation to where I am at the moment. I can see another one further down there. But let's just try and see, Seb, if we can show you which one I'm talking about. Now, I can't see it behind these quarries, but you can see straight through where the rest of the herd is. They're all kind of milling about, just sort of having a good feed, and so I don't really want to disturb them. So Soviet Dodge, no, not necessarily. Elephants will remain with their if they're females, will remain with their mother for life. But in terms of being in a herd for life, no, not. If you find weather conditions change or climate changes, and they're struggling to maybe get food in an area or water, sometimes what you'll find is that the Ellies will split apart and family groups will split and new herds will form. Also remember, males do not stay within the herd structure at all. Males will leave the herd as soon as they are sexually mature in order to be able to kind of, go off and mate with other elephants that are not their sisters and aunts and mothers, and so they get chased out. So the herd structure does change every now and then. It's obviously got a core kind of element to it, which is mostly adult females with their offspring that will kind of be together, and then there will be a few aunts and whatever that will kind of form the grouping. But sometimes those will split apart according to conditions and then come back together, and so there is a bit of fluidity in their kind of movements. But I don't think we're going to get much of a better view of these guys. Unfortunately, from where I am to them, you can see we've got very open ground here, so there's not really much place for me to go. I can also see that Brent is here too, so if you look straight through the bushes, there is Brent Leo Smith. I think it's Brent Leo Smith, it looks like him, that is kind of watching towards us. And I can also see Craig on the Pink Panther. So we have a new camera called the Pink Panther, which is a bright lurid pink color. And so yes, definitely Craig and Brent that are in that area. Brent is now putting on his sunglasses so that he looks cool for the paparazzi. When one is a A-list celebrity like Brent Leo Smith and is known all over Africa as the Bush Kid, one must put on sunglasses in order to look good in front of camera. Batman, on the other hand, well, there's Batman now putting on his and now looking very cool with his Pink Panther. Batman has got the surfer look down, except for the hat. The hat is not quite a surfer hat. He needs to maybe straighten that out. But otherwise, Batman is also showing off the guns. You see that, Sebastian? Yes, he's got a very short T-shirt on. He's showing off the guns. Exactly. Here comes People magazine. Let's see how they drive. Hopefully they do not hit anything, because that will be a bit awkward if they have a car accident and we're filming them. But yes, look at that. Two of humans' finest coming our way. Carol, does Brent give autographs? Seldomly. He is one of those that will try and kind of shy away from an autograph here and there. You know, the thing about Brent Smith is he's only going to give an autograph if he can have a gold pen and it's got gold ink. And that's obviously very expensive for the average people to have a photograph from Brent Leo Smith. But yes, Brent Leo Smith does sometimes give autographs to very special people, but you have to really ask very nicely. Now, of course, he's going to come and take photos of us, because the celebrities, sometimes this is how they get their own back on the paparazzi, is they come and take photos of the people taking pictures of them. This is ridiculous. But can you see the Pink Panther now? Now you can see the camera cage. And this is a legacy of Wiem the Wildebeest, because Wiem the Wildebeest said to is one thing that he wants to leave us with, and that is a pink camera. And so he is the one that helped design this cage that Craig is a poser, isn't he? Look at him, kind of, both of them, and there they go. Apparently shy, but they love it, the two of them. There we go. Jeez. There's steamy characters on the back of their vehicle, and then there's Rex as well. He's also looking quite dapper with his Africa is Not for Sissies t-shirts today. Say hello, Rex. There we go. So there's the Africa is Not for Sissies t-shirt, and everybody is looking very, very dapper in this morning. Right. Now, of course, we've kind of ignored the fact that there's elephants behind us, so we're not going to kind of mess around here too much more. We're going to start kind of moving out of the area. While we do that, though, let's send you back across to Jamie and some wildebeest.
Tell you a funny story about our leave recently while we sit and watch the wildebeest, as I seem to be unable to drive past wildebeest without stopping to look. It just brings back memories of my time in Kenya. Brent and I had to move back into our house while we were on leave, which took a significant amount of doing because we never moved in properly in the first place. So we had a lot of stuff that needed to find We need to find a place to put it. Long story short, we'd had a busy morning taking out the rubbish, thrown on my oldest pair of shorts and the oldest t-shirt, and we were looking really quite bedraggled. And we went into Pick and Pay, which is our local grocery store, at which point Brent bumped into some SafariLive fans. And I was busy putting our groceries through the till on the checkout counter. And then I just hear across the entire shopping centre, "There's Jamie, she's hiding behind the bars of chocolate." Thanks, Brent. Thank you kindly. I mean, I was there with my bedraggled hair, a giant pimple on my forehead. "There's Jamie, hiding behind the chocolate." Thanks. Well, I think he must know now that we have now established a situation where we will both or throw each other under the bus. No, Kirst, we didn't sign any autographs. They were lovely people. Very lovely people, and they didn't ask for an autograph. I was very thankful because I was in a hurry. Where we did sign autographs on a very strange topic. I mean, we are not celebrities in any fashion, but we went to the school that I went to as a kid, and where we pioneered the school drives in South Africa. We went to Rodin, and all the little girls of around about 8 or 9 years old, first of all, it was like being swamped by a human tiny tidal wave. It was scary. They came sprinting out of their classroom squealing. And then they all had autograph books. Now, I don't know if this was a thing when I was a kid. I don't remember it. But they all had autograph books, notebooks, where they got different people to sign them. And they were very interested in adding our signatures to their list. I suppose in South Africa, opportunities are rare. So the wildebeest are pregnant now. At this point, they'll be giving birth in the next month and a half. Tim, definitely not the life of celebrities. Yeah. Getting caught hiding behind the chocolate aisle, though, was not my idea of fun. Anyway, the wildebeest are pregnant. They're going to be giving birth in the next month and a half or so. So they're starting to look round-bellied. It's something to look forward to. My very first year with SafariLive, we spent, about 9 hours watching one wildebeest, until we got lucky enough to see it giving birth. Unfortunately, we missed the end part of it because she moved into some quite dense vegetation. But we were there as her water broke, first thing in the morning. I'm hoping we can repeat that this year because I never managed it with the topi in the Mara. Despite best efforts, it just didn't happen for us. It was very unfortunate. Luckily for us, this herd tends to hang around quarantine. Or maybe we'll get lucky. Of course, the next morning after we watched that... Sorry, my bad. Quick sip of water. The next morning, after watching that touching process, the 6th pride came in and ate half the wildebeest calves. So we basically we watched a wildebeest from life to death in 24 hours. I'm making my way towards home. The fact that we are still moving astounds me. Every now and again my steering wheel just goes junk to the left. And we veer slightly off course. But so far we seem to have survived. I didn't even need to change the tire in the end. Now, of course, we are all supporting a cast and crew for our A-list celebrities. I would hate to detract too much attention from them, so let's go across to Brent, our A-lister, so that he can say goodbye.
Well, the only A-lister you're going to see now is a mistletoe growing in a marula tree. So a parasitic plant that lives off the trees it grows in. So that poor marula's got a couple actually, and that really big one on the left. Now they should be flowering and fruiting quite shortly as well, the mistletoe. Now almost all mistletoe is spread by one species of bird, the acacia pied barbet. They love the fruit, and they feed off the fruit, and it gets stuck to their feet. And when they land in other trees, the fruits stick onto the branches and then start to germinate and go right into the bark of the tree and cause the tree to produce a growth hormone called globulin. And so it makes the tree send more nutrients to that little area that they are living in than it does to other areas of the tree. So mistletoe is actually quite a nasty plant as you goes. Now, of course, it is the plant of Christmas, and Christmas apparently is around the corner. I thought it was still a few months away, but who might argue with everyone else? But it is a lovely morning here in the Sabi Sands. Unfortunately, the cats were being a bit difficult. Hopefully they'll make an appearance on the sunset safari. And who knows what wonders await. And as I said, keep an eye on the dam cam today. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be hot. I think you're going to get a lot of elephant action around there. So hopefully you will be able to enjoy that in between the safaris. But from all of us here at SafariLive, we will see you in a few short hours for the sunset safari.